Awesome. All right. We've got head coach Jim Larranaga here. We'll start with an opening statement from Coach L, and then we'll go into questions. Coach, whenever you're ready.
Well, that was a tremendous college basketball game. It seems like the teams in the ACC are playing these incredibly close games. Last time we were able to get a stop with 8 seconds to go. Tonight we weren't. I mean, that's how close these games are. The last possession seems to determine the success. So I thought Florida State did a tremendous job defensively. I thought our guys played very well, and it came down to the last possession. So, well, questions?
If you have a question, please use the hand raise function. We'll start with Michelle Kaufman from the Miami Herald.
Hey, Jim, I'm wondering if you can talk us through your emotions or your thoughts in the final seconds there when Charlie Moore hit that three. What were you thinking at that moment, and then from that to the end of the game?
Well, I was thinking there's a lot of time left. 7 seconds is an eternity when you're only up 1 point. And they're very athletic and fast. And, we tried to contain the dribbler, but Evans did a great job of just pushing it down the floor at top speed. And he tried to get himself all the way to the basket, which he was able to get there. And Charlie defended it. And obviously the referee called a foul. So not much you can do about that. He made some clutch free throws.
What did you tell Charlie after that play?
I didn't say anything to Charlie. The game continues. That was his 5th foul, and we had to try to inbound the ball and score. What I told him after the game was he made an incredible shot. Jordan Miller got a great offensive rebound and threw it to Charlie. And I thought, again, that was going to be the game winner. But as it turned out, the Florida State was able to come back and get a bucket.
Thank you.
Anyone else have questions for Coach L? Is that it? All right, Coach. Thanks for your time.
So you heard Coach Larranaga. Again, he came out fast. It looks like we're not going to get any players tonight. Disappointing. We couldn't get more. Reaction from Miami, disappointing loss. No doubt about that. Welcome to the postgame show. It definitely started fast. Just got to be ready. But hopefully you guys, if you missed anything, you can watch it back. I am going to try to get some feedback from Florida State. Just hold on 1 second here. Yeah, so I will go to Leonard Hamilton's press conference just to get a few notes there once he's able to speak here. Something different just to try to give you guys some more reaction to this one. So, tough one here. Miami loses 65-64. A lot to get into with this one. I thought there were some good signs throughout. It's a disappointing way to end it. Obviously, Charlie Moore's three-pointer with 7 seconds left, and just a disappointing foul there at the end, closing seconds. And Raekwon Evans goes up there, knocks down 2 free throws, and lifts Florida State to that win. So I don't think that there were, you're disappointed in the loss. I don't think it's necessarily a telling sign. As you've heard, if you pay attention to the game, Miami struggled in Tallahassee, has not won there since 2016. Miami has lost 8 straight games now to Florida State. That one hurts. It's the longest active losing streak against any team in the country for Miami, their program. So that's disappointing. You thought you had the win. Miami did a lot of things well. I'm looking at the stats here as I slide it over to Miami stats. 46% on the game, and it was hovering over 50 in the second half, which you like to see. The turnovers were a little high, 11 turnovers. It was the first time in 6 games that Miami has had more than 10 turnovers. Still not a high number, but just a little bit different than normal. There were some things that led into that. I thought Florida State's ball pressure was good. I thought they did a good job of trying to deny passes on the perimeter to the guards just to make things a little bit uncomfortable. And then there were some uncharacteristic things that we saw with a couple other turnovers. But again, not all is lost. I know it's very disappointing. And we're going to Coach Hamilton here, it looks like. Looks like they're not getting started here, but I'll go to him just to, like I said, just a few thoughts, see what he had to say. He's always, he had a lot to say on that ACC teleconference on Monday about Miami, about Coach Larranaga and the Hurricanes. Charlie Moore went through McGusty and Wong, so I'm sure he'll have a lot to say here. And sometimes it's always good to just to hear the other perspective once again, especially because Larranaga's press conference was so short after tonight's game. And I've said this before, we're doing these post-game things. I'd like to be able to integrate, be able to ask questions, but just a lot going on with this live stream, so it makes it a little bit more difficult than normal. But certainly I should have asked questions. I would have liked to have gotten in there on some questions tonight. Charlie Moore, once again, 20 points, 4 straight games with at least 18 points. This is the first time in his career he's done that, that stretch, so he's still playing well. 8 of 12 field goals, 4 of 5 from 3. He also had the 6 assists, fouls out at that last play. And I know he played well throughout the game, but that foul at the end, I'm sure he'll be thinking about that. But Coach Larranaga has done a good job in general of just trying not to let losses sit. He said it the other day, even after the Duke win, that this is a season. That's a marathon. Just a reminder, it's not a sprint. You know, Miami drops to 5-1 in the conference, still in a really good position. They've played well. They've obviously won some games in the key game against Duke. So Miami's in a good spot still. I thought it was good that they played well for most of the game. Not their best game of the year, but for the most part, I thought they played pretty well on the road, given the energy here. Florida State might be getting going on their post-game press conference, and so we'll just go over there. But yeah, I thought Miami did well for the most part. They did limit the turnovers, even though it was more than what they've had. A couple other guys, Cam McGusty, 17 points. I thought he made some key buckets in the second half just to keep Miami ahead. And that's the thing, when you're that road team, you don't want to be chasing buckets so much. So they did a good job staying ahead in a tight game. McGusty also 9 rebounds. And then Isaiah Wong was a little bit off, 4 of 12, just the 10 points there. So a little disappointing there, just the 1 rebound, had 5 assists, did make a big 3 there in the second half. But you'd like to see, obviously, more scoring from Isaiah. Miami 10 steals, 3rd straight game with at least 10 steals, another positive there in that one. And again, you want to take this as a learning experience moving forward. Certainly the low-scoring game, Miami had been scoring quite a bit of points, particularly in the ACC. They've been the most efficient ACC team, offensive efficiency rating thus far. So you're hoping that this is just more of an anomaly. Wasn't able to get to the free throw line very often, just the 10 attempts. That stands out as well. I do want to split this up so you can see a little bit about Florida State stats. Not uncommon to see Florida State go with that depth. I thought Miami did a good job on Caleb Mills. He's coming off that 27-point performance, the big game. He hit 6 threes against Louisville. He goes 2 of 10, only 4 points against Miami. So Miami's guards did a good job on him. I think that's a positive sign. I thought Miami did a good job last game against Duke's guards, Keels and Roach, and I thought they made Buddy Boeheim obviously uncomfortable again for Syracuse in that game. So they're doing pretty good on some of this guard stuff, defending the guards. So I think those are positive signs. Other things with the stats, the points in the paint, Florida State 32-20. Again, Miami wasn't able to get in the paint, but that's Florida State. They like to get the ball inside. Total rebounds, Miami was out rebounded 37-25. A lot of this, the ACC schedule and what we've seen already is just about kind of matchups and how teams match up against one another. This is not the strong Florida State team that we've seen in years past. They get the win. They go to 9-6, 3-2 in the conference. Florida State did pick up a win against Louisville, as I mentioned, and that was Louisville's first loss. So they were able to knock off Miami. So they, kind of getting some momentum at Florida State, but just it's not that strong team. But their identity is still the same. They try to defend, play a bunch of guys, have good size down low, and obviously try to utilize that on both ends of the court. We might have some movement. So yeah, if you're just jumping on, appreciate you jumping on. Again, Coach Larranaga was really quick, talked for 2-3 minutes. No players available after this one. So we're kind of waiting on Leonard Hamilton. After that's over, I am going to break away. I'm not going to wait for Florida State players, but we'll talk a little bit more about this one. But definitely drop in the comments in the chat. Let me know what you guys think of this one, kind of what went wrong in this one as well. Or, are you worried? Are there things that you're concerned about, or are there still a lot of positives in this one that you guys are thinking about moving forward? I think if Miami was not able to stay in the game throughout, I think that would have been a negative. I think if there maybe some things down the stretch, if they were overwhelmed, and I didn't feel like that happened at all throughout the game. Again, it was a game they didn't win. Obviously, there were certain things that they'll go back to the drawing board and look at the film. Miami's next game isn't until January 18th, so a full week before they host North Carolina. It's going to be another tough game, just on matchups. Once again, with North Carolina, their guards, but particularly down low with Baycott and what they're able to do with Manick and when Garcia's out there. So once again, it'll be about matchups, but we'll see how Miami does. Once again, you've got those wins under your belt in the conference, so you still can feel good about some things Miami's doing. One of the things I'm looking at the stats here, and this is going to be very difficult, and it's a group that had been doing so well, but the bench goes scoreless, only shoots 2 times. Obviously, no points off the bench makes it very tough against any opponent. So, Walker had 8 minutes, Joseph 11, and then Gak and Poplar each with 2 points. Poplar is going to be the interesting one to see if he can get back in, and missed a couple games with COVID protocols. He was getting kind of regular minutes. I'd be curious to see if they get him more involved. Coach Larranaga talks a lot about, you've heard him over recent years talk about injuries and depth, but you look at a game like this where, only 6 guys played over 10 minutes, and only 7 played more than 3. So he definitely goes heavy on his starters. That's how he prefers it. And whereas Florida State was able to play a bunch of guys, as we switch over here to Florida State, multiple guys in double-figure minutes. Their starters certainly get the bulk of it, but just different coaching philosophies with this one.
All right, enjoy this one for as long as you can, and then get back after Coach Leonard Hamilton.
Recording in progress.
And Adrian, some final thoughts from you. I think
please.
You go back to what we talked about at the start of the broadcast. You have Miami.
Fellas, Miami has a really, really good basketball team. They have the ability to, in my opinion, to get to the Final Four. They're so difficult to defend. Every time you make a mistake, they make you pay. They execute very well. They seem to be in sync with each other, creating for each other. And then defensively, I mean, I believe they had how many steals did they have the first half? I don't know. All I know is that they were stripping the ball from us and making it hard for us to run anything. We feel very fortunate to win this game. Coach has done a great job with that team. They're extremely mature team, and they're going to be a tough out for anybody who plays them. My hat goes off to them. It took all we could. I looked up once in the second half, and I looked at who they had on the floor, some 6-year veterans, and I had 3 freshmen on the floor. But I was proud of those guys. I thought they communicated well. They didn't show any lack of confidence in what we were trying to do. And I was very proud of my guys tonight because that was an important victory for us, but against an outstanding basketball team.
Leonard, how pleased were you with how aggressive your guys were? Raekwon on the last possession, other times earlier in the game, Caleb, him, Matt Cleveland all seemed to be in attack mode at times.
Well, we were obviously they were doing a tremendous job defending us, and we wanted to be as aggressive as possible. And we were able to get into the lane and draw some fouls and make a few plays. I mean, when I look mentally back into the game, I haven't watched the film, I thought everybody made winning plays. When I look at the stats, I think everybody contributed in some way during the course of this game. And I always say our system is built around winning, the theme of winning games by committing. And I thought that was very obvious tonight.
Leonard, can you talk?
Leonard, you talked a lot about coming into the game about Miami and obviously their experience, and I know your lack of how many newcomers you've had to rely on. But what's it say about, your veterans that you have seem like they all stepped up down the stretch. Raekwon, Malik, Anthony all made plays.
Well, the respect we have for Miami, I thought elevated our focus. And I thought our veterans have been to the wars before, and I thought they gave us great leadership verbally in the huddles and on the court. And I thought our younger guys were attentive and was following their direction. And that just shows that we kind of adjusted as a team, and hopefully we can continue to keep growing and maybe dig ourselves out of this little ditch that we put ourselves in.
Leonard, how special is it for Raekwon? I know he's had a tough year personally and everything else to step up and hit those free throws.
No doubt about it. That was huge. And he stepped right up with poise, with extreme amount of confidence. And I was very, very pleased with his body language. It was like it just said, I'm glad I'm on this line and I want to win this game for my brothers. Those were huge free throws. His free throws, and then Malik's big three. Obviously, that was a huge shot. And he has not been 100%. He turned his ankle there in the first half and we had to regroup. He still has been limited practice, and hopefully having a day off tomorrow will give him a chance to kind of recover and get some treatment. Hopefully he'll be a little bit better come Saturday.
What do you think that performance for Malik does for some of the other players, like knowing he's injured and knowing he can't be 100%? What do you think him going out there and doing what he does for the other players?
Well, there's no doubt that they're going to gain a lot of respect for him because they know that he's been limited in his mobility and hasn't had that many reps in practice. So, but he stepped up.
Okay, so there we go. You heard a little bit from Coach Hamilton. High praise, definitely high praise with what he had to say about Miami. Feels like they're a potential Final Four team. I think that's an incredible statement, obviously, from a veteran coach. It just goes to show you just what other coaches think about Miami's team. It's a little surprising. Obviously, Miami's not. They do have flaws with their team. We all know that, but they've showed a lot already in the early part of this season, even dropping to 13-4 after this loss, but they're still 5-1 in the conference. And if you haven't seen, I had an article earlier this week about the ACC coaches, including Leonard Hamilton, Coach K, Jim Boeheim, and Steve Forbes from Wake Forest, talking about Miami, kind of the hot topic of the ACC teleconference. So I thought that was a lot of interesting things coming out of that teleconference, a lot of interesting things coming out of Coach Hamilton. I do want to make a note. There were some things that stood out to me in this one. Both teams struggled down the stretch to make shots. The last 5 minutes was really a struggle for both teams. Miami's only made field goal in the last 5 minutes was that Charlie Moore three-pointer with 7 seconds left. And Florida State was held out as well. They didn't make a bunch of shots. I think they might have had only one, if any. I know that they were kind of in a drought as well. but you know, it was just one of those games. It was tight. Teams did make free throws down the stretch, obviously, and for the game, Florida State 13-16, Miami 7-10. I did think that the foul at the end was a proper call on Charlie Moore. It's a tough call, but you know, it's a guy going to the basket, and it just is what it is. And you know, Miami had that 1 point lead, and Raekwon Evans goes up there and makes 2 free throws there. A couple of comments I saw here. I want to shout out to everybody that's here. A lot of regular names that I see quite a bit, so I'm glad you guys are here. One of the things that stood out to me about one of the comments was just about Miami's inside presence, and as you see tonight, Sam Waterberg, 8 points, just the 3 rebounds. Obviously, if he's the only big in the game, getting the bulk of the minutes, he got 34 tonight. He's got to rebound better. Simply put, he did have a couple block shots, credit with 3 block shots there. But he just has to be a complete, just really fill that role. Again, Anthony Walker is not giving the team very much right now. Certainly tonight he didn't. He's been very hit and miss, very up and down, which is disappointing because we saw a lot of positives from Anthony last year in his role, elevated role. But with Sam back, they're going with Sam more. Walker's just, you know, he gets in there 8 minutes. He had that bad turnover, just kind of losing the ball. He doesn't take a shot. No rebounds, so not providing the team much when he's in there. In those 8 minutes, you see he's a -6. The rest of the bench, Gak was only in for 2 minutes. Only 2 minutes, and he's a -7. Poplar, 2 minutes, a -8. Certainly not good numbers from the bench right there on those plus minuses. When you've got a close game, you've got to, if you're not scoring points, you've got to make sure you're on point with your defense. And clearly during that stretch, when those guys were in the game, they did not do that. So that was disappointing to see there. Bensley Joseph, 11 minutes, misses a 3-pointer, but no assists, no rebounds. He doesn't get a steal, so nothing going on with Bensley. So disappointing performance from the bench. You're not always going to get 15 to 25 points off the bench every game, but when you go zeros as a group with the 4 guys that get in there, once again, limited minutes, but disappointing in production, and those plus minuses weren't great as well for that secondary group, and they'll have to work on that. They'll definitely have to be ready in these environments. This is a team that's still getting used to playing on the road. It's a team that had really struggled in road games prior to this season. Obviously, the big win at Duke. They were 3-0 at that time going into the Duke game on the road, so 4-1 now. But they'd only had 5 wins on the road in the last 3 seasons. I think 5 and I put it in the notes, either 5-36 or 5-20, something like that. The numbers were really bad on the road, including an 0-10 mark a few years ago. So this team is still learning how to win on the road, how to play on the road, again, playing with some crowds, some environment stuff. So they've got to get better. They've got to be better. If they want to be kind of this NCAA tournament team, or what Coach Hamilton said, a potential Final Four team, I don't want to jump ahead of that. I'm not even ready to say that this team is ready to compete for the ACC title right now. I think they're in the upper half. I think that's where they're at right now. But they've got work to do. They still got a lot of work to do. They've got to be able to kind of make sure they're erasing some of these weaknesses. They played a lot of close games in the ACC. More close games are going to come. Once again, a lot of those wins were at home. They will be back home January 18th. So that's next week, 7 days from now, against a tough North Carolina team. They're going to have to figure out a way to regroup. Matchup-wise, that's going to be a tough one. As far as Rodney Miller was out for a while. Even when he was playing, he was only playing a couple minutes, just not giving this team, just not in the rotation. They're going small. And then when he got hurt, he was out 3 to 4 weeks. We saw pregame. As far as we know, he's able to come back. But I don't think Coach Larranaga has addressed it specifically, but I think he is on that timetable to return. And I would have thought he would have played, if he was, in the mix and ready, he would have played against Duke with Mark Williams, if he was ready to go there. And that was the game where we saw him, with the photos during pregame warm-ups, but he didn't get in that one. So as far as we know, he's just buried on the depth chart and they're not using him right now, but we'll see. North Carolina, maybe he has been dealing with the injury still. North Carolina plays big with Baycott. You're going to need all your bodies there. They will pound the ball. This is not, like Jesse Edwards against Syracuse or even Mark Williams against Duke, who, guys that can finish at the rim, some big guys with some athleticism, but they're not featured players. Whereas next week, Armando Bacot is a featured player, arguably the featured scorer for North Carolina. So they will feed the ball down low. And Sam Wardenberg's going to have to play better. You see the 4 fouls. That was disappointing. He's going to have to stay out of foul trouble because, once again, he's kind of their big guy, their lone big guy they're going to. Jordan Miller is just a smaller forward, more of a stretch guy, more of a guard, actually. I think he would actually feature more on the perimeter, even more. But Miami has 3 other guards they're going with. So Miami they're just not a big team. Miller does a good job rebounding for his size. He is able to kind of block some shots and do some things there. So we'll see how Miami kind of regroups. One thing that I'm looking at the stats here, one thing that stands out to me, I know Isaiah Wong, just the 10 points. It's tough. What makes Miami good is Cameron McGusty and Isaiah Wong, and now Charlie Moore going. But Wong and McGusty are 2 high-level guards, and they typically bring it every night, and they produce, and they've got to be able to get close to that 15-point mark, and even more for Miami to win games. So just the 10 points is disappointing. The 4 of 12 shots not going in, but no free throw attempts. I'm sure Coach Larranaga, Coach Caputo, Coach Bill Courtney, the coaching staff will be pointing at that with Isaiah to make sure he stays aggressive. It's a little bit different role this year with Charlie Moore with the ball handling responsibilities. Isaiah did have the ball in his hands more last year, but Isaiah has to be able to get guys out going off the dribble. He's a 80% free throw shooter. He's a guy that can get to the line. He did really well at that last year, and I think he's got to make sure he doesn't have too many of these games where he's not getting to the free throw line, especially when his shot's not falling. So that's something I think that they can correct. That's an easy fix to me. Some of these other things. 3-pointers, 9 of 21, 42%. You'll take that every game. So that's good to see. Cameron McGusty won't go over 4 very often. It's something he's done a good job of this year, shooting at a better percentage than he has at any time in his career. So I don't expect that to continue. But teams, particularly opposing guards, are going to do everything they can to make it uncomfortable for Cam and obviously Isaiah moving forward. I do want to wrap this up. Kind of a shorter show tonight. Once again, Jim Larranaga, right at the beginning of the stream, if you missed it, he talked right at the beginning, a couple minutes, had a few thoughts, clearly disappointed, clearly not the reaction as it was from other games with the win. So he's disappointed. Only talked for a couple minutes, no players available. I talked for a little bit. Coach Leonard Hamilton jumped in with a few comments about Miami. Just in case if you missed the show. I want to thank everybody for jumping on the live stream. I'd like to continue to do this. It's disappointing we don't have more people in here. I'm disappointed the fan base isn't rallying around this team, which is off to a good start. College basketball, you do lose games. This is not college football. If you're new to the sport, it happens. Key is to continue to move along. And Miami, as far as we know, is healthy. They still have 2 elite guards. They got a chance to beat North Carolina at home. They're going to have to play well. They're going to have to make some adjustments. North Carolina's going to be one of those tough matchups on that one, and we'll see how that one goes. So Miami doesn't play again January 18th, full week off, but stay locked in. I'll have more stuff on the basketball team leading up to that game. I want to thank